So I think that the Miami Dolphins offense is going to explode this year. And many people, including my guy Juice Alert, has been saying that I'm overrating the Miami Dolphins. I'm overrating Tua Tagovailoa. I'm a big fan of Tua. When he was coming out of Alabama, I loved his game. Even though he may not have the strongest arm, or he may not be as good as a Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert, I think when you look at the hiring of Mike McDaniels, and I said this several times and I'm going to repeat it again, I think that this was a grand slam hiring for the Dolphins. You're bringing in somebody who's going to run the West Coast offense, and it's a perfect system for Tua Tagovailoa and what he does well. Tua Tagovailoa is really accurate in between the numbers. Short to intermediate is where he excels the best. Then you bring in Tyree Kill, who is one of the best football players that we have in this league right now. Tyree Kill, with how he's able to impact the game in so many different ways by just being able to return kickoffs and punts, and just his ability of what he's able to do after the catch, he's able to win you 3, maybe 4 games. So you bring that aspect to your offense when you already had Jaylen Waddle. So you arguably have 2 of the fastest wide receivers in the league that's going to be starting at wide receiver for you. Then you improve the run game. I mean, the Dolphins' rushing attack over the last couple of seasons has been abysmal. 2019, they had the worst rushing attack in the NFL, averaging 72.3 rushing yards per game. In 2020, they were 21st in rushing yards per game with 105.5. That went down previously last year when they only had 92 rushing yards per game, which was 29th in the league. You bring in Chase Edmonds, who I think may be the most talented running back currently on the roster. When you're looking at somebody who can do it all, Chase Edmonds is going to be that guy. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He's also pretty explosive when he's able to get opportunities. Last year, James Conner kind of came on when he was battling injuries, and I don't even think Arizona expected James Conner to play as well as what he did last year. So with Chase Edmonds going to Miami, I expect him to end up being the RB1, and I think that he's going to get the bulk load of the carries. You do have Sony Michel, who did have a pretty significant role in the Rams offense. At times, you have Raheem Mostert, who has some familiarity, well, a lot of familiarity with Mike McDaniels, because Mike McDaniels was the OC for the 49ers, and Raheem Mostert has spent his last couple of years with San Francisco, so he's already familiar with the system. He'll probably end up being in the discussion for that RB1 spot as well. Then you still have Gaskins and Dokes. And then you brought in fullback Alex Ingold from Las Vegas. And we know what that means. Anytime you see a team sign a fullback, that means they're most likely going to end up going underneath center. They're going to run that I formation, and they're going to bring back that old traditional ground and pound. And people forget that you can still win a lot of ball games with the older style of offenses. You can still win running the I formation. Many people think you need this flashy offense where you just need to be throwing the football 50, 40 times a game. If you are still a very effective running football team, you're still going to have a chance of being able to compete for championships. And this offense, it may not sound as if it's going to be flashy or explosive, but the West Coast offense is all about putting wide receivers in positions to make big plays after the catch. And you have 2 of the best wide receivers in the league when it comes to what they're able to do with the ball in their hands after they catch the ball. You have Tyree Kill, you have Jaylen Waddle, who is coming off a really underrated rookie season. His rookie season was fantastic. He caught 104 receptions for 1,015 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, and yet he was kind of overshadowed by how dominant Jamar Chase was with Cincinnati. But Jaylen Waddle was pretty much the most reliable weapon that Miami had on offense at times. Then you have Cedric Wilson, who may be one of the more underrated free agency signings of this offseason. When he got signed Nobody really talked about it. Nobody really cared unless you're a Dolphins fan. But Cedric Wilson was the third wide receiver on Dallas. And he didn't really get a lot of opportunities to show how good he was because he was in the shadows of CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Amari Cooper. But when he's asked to step up and make plays, he contributed. And I think with Miami, it looks as if he's probably going to be playing in the slot. So I think that would be a perfect spot for him. But if you want to play him outside, you can do that. If you want to move Tyreek to the slot or Jaylen Waddle to the slot and move him to the outside, you can do that as well. But something else that Miami has, something that they haven't had in the last couple of years, is actually good depth at wide receiver. You also have Lynn Bowden. Forgot about him. I think that Mike McDaniels definitely can find a role for him. You have Preston Williams, who is a okay 50-50 ball wide receiver. He also could be a good red zone target. You have rookie wide receiver out of Texas Tech, Eric Uzakama out of Texas Tech. He was a 4th-round pick this past year's NFL draft. He is 6'2", 209 pounds, has great size. He makes a lot of circus-like catches. If you go back and you watch a couple of his games, man, some of the catches that he was making, I was saying, oh my goodness, okay, I see you. But the thing with him is that his route running needs work. And on top of that, I don't think he's the greatest when it comes to creating a lot of separation. He's also not a burner. There were people saying that he could be the Deebo Samuel of Mike McDaniel's offense. I strongly disagree with that. If there was going to be anybody who could have a Deebo Samuel kind of role in his offense, it would be Lynn Bowden. Because you look at Uzakama, he doesn't have the same skill set that Deebo Samuel has. And I'm not really understanding why some people are making that comparison. But I think that if there was anybody who's going to have that kind of versatile role, being able to be moved around in several spots on the offense, it would be Bowden. The offensive line probably is the biggest question outside of Tua Tagovailoa, but I don't really have any questions about Tua. I feel Tua was kind of held back by the coaching staff in a sense, and Brian Flores isn't a bad coach. It's just that the offensive coordinator situation was just really weird. They kind of ran an elementary style offense, a lot of RPOs. You are looking at Mike McDaniel, somebody who actually understands offenses and understands how to get the most out of the players that he has and the personnel. He's going to put Tua in better situations to succeed than what the previous coaching staff did. Then the offensive line. Okay, your offensive line coach is, I'm going to have fun saying this name, Matt Applebaum. He was the offensive line coach for Boston College. He helped develop NFL prospects Zion Johnson and Alex Lindstrom. If you were to ask some Boston College players, what are some outstanding traits from Applebaum, they would say that he's a really smart guy. He's really good when it comes to developing young athletic offensive lineman because he's also familiar with the zone running scheme that the Miami Dolphins are going to look to implement. And that's going to vote well for what they have on the offensive line because this offensive line is very young. Outside of Terron Armstead, who recently signed a 5-year deal, $87 million. We know he's starting at left tackle. You got Connor Williams, who they also signed in free agency. He's most likely going to be starting at guard, but he could potentially move to center depending on how things transpire elsewhere because at right guard and tackle, you're going to have some position battles going down. Right guard is most likely going to be between Robert Hunt and Solomon Kinley. Then you're going to have Austin Jackson, Liam Eichenberg competing for the starting right tackle spot. Probably would expect Austin Jackson to win that job there. And Austin Jackson, Robert Hunt, all of these offensive linemen are really athletic. They're just young. And I think with them transitioning into that zone running scheme, with the zone blocking concepts that Mike McDaniels and his staff are going to implement, I think that is going to bring the most out of these offensive linemen. And I think the offensive line is definitely going to be way better this year compared to what it has been in years past. this Dolphins offense, man, is going to be really good. I expect this offense to be a top 10 unit right off the bat. You have Tyree Kill and Jaylen Waddle. We can't forget about Mike Gesicki. How could I forget about him? I ain't forget. He's one of the better tight ends that we have in this league. And we know what George Kittle did with San Francisco and all the success that he's had. So I expect Mike Gesicki to have a pretty big role in this offense, especially down in the red zone, being a really big red zone target for Tua. So this offense should, at worst, be a top 10 unit. And if it isn't a top 10 offense, I would be a little bit disappointed. But as long as the offense is scoring points and they're able to move the football, I guess that's all that really matters. But top 10 definitely is my expectation. Because with how dynamic this wide receiver core is and what they can do with the ball in their hands, just the fact that you added Tyree Kill, even if you didn't add Tyree Kill, I still would be pretty high on this offense. Now, I wouldn't expect them to be a top 10 unit without Tyree Kill, but I would expect this offense to still be pretty good, at least top 13 or top 15 without Tyree Kill. But with Tyree Kill and with just how dynamic he is as just a weapon, not just a wide receiver, a weapon, and what he can do and how he can impact the game in several ways, he just brings a different dynamic to this offense. And then with Tua being able to be in an offense that's going to utilize his strength, I think Mike McDaniel is going to come in and he's going to have a similar impact with Tua that Sean McVay had when he was first hired by the Rams. Because you remember what the narrative was about Jared Goff. His first year under Jeff Fisher, he was already viewed as a bust. Many people already gave up on him. Then you bring in Sean McVay. He brings in his West Coast style offense. He adds a couple of wrinkles in there. And Jared Goff ends up being a bust and then a Pro Bowl, almost MVP in just a span of a couple of years. And I think with Mike McDaniels, you can definitely see Tua take that kind of leap. Now, will he end up being a MVP candidate? Not going to take it that far, but I definitely think that Tua Tagovailoa is going to surprise many people. And I'm so tired of people harping on Tua, man. Like, the situation that he was in wasn't ideal. The worst offensive line in the league, not having no run game, not really having any good talent at wide receiver. Tua probably had one of the worst offenses and one of the worst supporting casts around him. On top of that, not really a good offensive coordinator. That also held him back. So I'm not really understanding why we make so many excuses for other quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson when those players had similar situations. But yet we give them a pass, but yet we don't want to give Tua that same kind of treatment. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I think the reason why so many people are hard on Tua is because of how successful his fellow quarterbacks from his draft class have been, such as Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. But I don't think Tua's been bad. I mean, yeah, he's had some games where he could have been better. He could have done a little bit more. But how much do you want the guy to do when some of your best receivers, such as Devontae Parker, struggle to stay on the field? What are you supposed to do when your offensive line is constantly caving in? And we say, well, JT, look what Joe Burrow did. I mean, yeah, Joe Burrow had a lot of success his rookie season, but his rookie year, he was throwing to a very good wide receiving core. This was pre-Jamar Chase. Pre-Jamar Chase, who is he throwing to? T. Higgins? Tyler Boyd? I mean, come on. Tua would have loved to have that. Tua would have loved to be throwing to Tyler Boyd last year. Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins? Oh my goodness. Imagine what Tua could have did with Cincinnati. Not saying he would have been as good as Joe Burrow, but he probably could have had way more success if he was drafted by Cincinnati compared to the success that he's had over the last couple of years with the Dolphins. Then you look at Justin Herbert. Even Justin Herbert, his offensive line situation wasn't great, but at the same time, he had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. So for Tua, he hasn't had the same level of weapons to work with on the perimeter, such as the other counterparts that his other quarterback pundits have had from that draft class. So I think this year, with the Dolphins finally taking a offseason to really build around Tua and finding a coach that wants to coach Tua, Because you listen to Mike McDaniel talk about Tua Tagovailoa, he loves this guy. He really does. He has embraced Tua as his quarterback. And that's really all that it's about when it comes to developing a young quarterback. Is having stability on your coaching staff and having a head coach that wants to coach your quarterback. Brian Flores didn't want Tua. It's been well known and well documented. He preferred Jordan Love over Tua. That's what the rumors say. So for Mike McDaniels, man, I think that he's going to do wonders with this Dolphins offense. And don't be surprised when this offense explodes. And when it does, I'm going to be the first person to come on here and tell you guys, I told you so. Too many people are counting out this Dolphins team simply because of who the quarterback is. I'm so tired of hearing people say, oh, JT, yeah, they have a very good group of wide receivers, probably the fastest offense in the league, but they're going to be held back by their quarterback play. I don't think that's going to happen. And Tua didn't play bad. That's what I'm trying to understand. There are some people who literally try to argue with me and say that Tua is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. I'm not buying that. Is he one of the best? No. But at the same time, let's be fair. And just too many people are just being unfair to Tua, man. I'm really rooting for Tua Tagovailoa. I really hope that he comes out and he just lights up the league this year. I hope that I hope Tua wins MVP this year. I really do. If I had to pick any player to win MVP, it would be Tua, because the guy has just gotten so much undeserved criticism. It makes no sense. And he hasn't played bad at all. He hasn't played bad. Could he have played better? Yes. I'm not making no excuses. He could play better. But let's not act as if Tua was just in this great situation. I think too many people overrate Brian Flores. It really irritates me. Brian Flores, if he was a good coach, the Dolphins would have made it to the postseason. If he was a good coach, Tua Tagovailoa would have been in a better situation. I'm just saying. I'm really trying to figure out why so many people are against Tua. He's a great leader. He is a great person off the field, and he hasn't played bad. He's actually had a pretty solid career. Now, not up to the level of what you expect when you draft a quarterback that high, but you also have to do a good job of building around your quarterback. And when the Dolphins drafted Tua, I mean, what much did they do to build around him over the last couple of years? Honestly. So I'm really excited for what this offense can do in 2022. Let me know how you guys are feeling about the Miami Dolphins offense down in the comment section down below.